Hello Internet! Today we're going to be looking at, well, this is the first figure review that I'm going to be doing for this channel, and hopefully it's not going to be the last. This is a figure that I've owned for quite a while since he was first released, and it is the S.H.Figuarts Frieza figure. So, there's a pretty good close-up of the figure. Let's move him to the side and let's take a look at the box. So it's a standard S.H.Figuarts window display box. A little dusty. There's a big window for displaying the actual figure. We have Final Form Frieza. A little blurb about S.H.Figuarts and how they're, what they're doing now. The Funimation sticker, Dragon Ball Z sticker, whatever that is, I honestly don't know what that is. Warning label sticker. On the side we have a pixelated or maybe cellular, Dragon Ball Z references, image of Frieza. And it's the actual figure, and so that's a pretty good likeness. On the back, there's some information about the actual character. I have the height of the camera a little low since the figure is relatively small, and it's got some images of posing options. The same little blurb here that was on the front. Bottom, Final Form Frieza, legal garb. And then, hit the camera. And then another small shot of Frieza. So that's that. Put the box to the side. And here's Figure himself. So, he stands about 4 and a quarter, which sets him at about, it's a rounded ruler. Can't really give you an accurate centimeter estimate, so whatever. So whatever works. And the likeness of this figure is actually pretty incredible. It looks just like he did in the books and in the show. Little nitpicks about the design. This top of the shoulder bit, where it should be purple, is actually white instead, which I don't understand. That would be pretty easy just to mold it, I guess. But, I mean, it doesn't throw it off too much. It's kind of noticeable. Not really. And then also this back plug. I'm not entirely sure what that's for. Maybe it's for if you pull it out and put the display stage in the back of him. Not entirely sure. So all this purple, it's darker around the edges. If I can get the light to hit it just right, you'll see it's darker around the actual seams, and then at the top it's more of a light pink. That's kind of the same all around, except for maybe the shoulders. Shoulders, goodness. So that's overall. I do have a little bit of paint chipping right there, which is kind of unfortunate because it's an incredibly nice figure, but whatever. That's actually from one of the other accessories that I will show you momentarily. So, the way that he actually comes in the box, he doesn't come with the tail on, because the tail is removable because he has exchangeable tails. So you just plug that into the back there. So that's that. So that's pretty much the figure. He has painted nails on almost all of his hands. Same thing with the toenails, and the little creases in his feet are painted too. But mine aren't painted that accurately, if the camera will focus. Guess it's not going to right now. Bottom of the feet are also textured as well, which is a pretty cool little addition. Overall, it doesn't look too bad, really. It's probably, I mean, it is the best Frieza figure in existence, and at the time when it was released, $40 was a pretty good deal. So, let's set him to the side. We'll look at the accessories before we go into articulation and such. This has already been assembled. It's actually supposed to be used for the Death Ball accessory, or I guess Death Beam, whatever it is. But it also comes with a little claw too for holding the figure up. So that's actually really nice. I don't use this exclusively for the Frieza figure. I use it for all of my other figures too. And I'll show you how that works momentarily. So, let's go with the heads. This figure has 2 exchangeable heads, including the one that he has on him. So, first off, we have the kind of standard, kind of evil-looking Frieza face. It's kind of hard to tell because the camera doesn't want to focus, because whatever. So we'll set him right here if we can. And we have an angry face, which is done incredibly well. He has veins there. He has a couple more veins over here. Healing's great. Just the detail's great. And again, it has the same dark around the edges and light pink around the top. I'll show you how to exchange the heads here momentarily. And I don't have these things out of the blisters yet, so I mean, I've taken him out before, but I haven't for the review. So, and then we have the Namek pose, kind of annoyed, kind of scowling face. All this got really going for it is the open mouth and the closed eye. Everything's pretty much the same, still the same with the shading. So, obviously he doesn't have exchangeable faces, so the way that you exchange the face, or the expression, is by pulling off the head as a whole. Now, one of the problems that I have with this, you see it's a hinged ball peg, so when you go to put the head on, and you press it down, it tends to push it back. So it makes it kind of difficult, so you have to line it up really well. I mean, in the end, it looks really good. But in order to do it, it's kind of obnoxious. Especially if you go to push and then it falls back like that, and you got to reset it. So it does take some time, but whatever. So that's that. So there's the changeable heads. We'll put those down here, I guess. So now we have this crossed arm bit. And this actually looks really good. It's detailed really well. The figure itself has a lot of darker gray shading all over. It's not really heavy in any places. It's kind of even all throughout, so you can't really tell. I guess maybe the hips is where or the thighs is where it's most prominent, but you can't really tell because of the shading, so I only have one light going for it. So the way that this accessory works is it's kind of difficult to use. You have to pull off the arm at the, I guess that's the shoulder, the bicep area, and put this bit on, and it's kind of hard to do also. And once you're done with it, it looks pretty good. I'm not going to put that in all the way. It looks really good. I just kind of threw this together. And you can move it just perfectly to where it aligns really well with the chest, and it looks almost seamless. But like I said, I just kind of threw it together. So that is that. Whoop, dropping the figure. And the joint looks kind of awkward. I don't know. Especially when you get that crossed arms bit put on. It doesn't... the shoulder bit doesn't look too great, but the overall, I guess, look of it looks pretty good. Oh, excuse me. So, like I said, the figure comes like this with two fists on him in the package. Detailed pretty nicely, although you can't tell because the camera doesn't want to focus. They're actually really nice. So we have these two on him. 2, 4, 6. So I guess we have, what, 8? I don't know, math. We have a bunch of different hands. So, first we have this hand, which doesn't have a pair. Oh my goodness. Like I said, I didn't take them out of the blisters. This is going to get loud. Or maybe it's not. We have the death ball finger hand, detailed incredibly well. The fingernail, again, is painted. I don't know if the camera's going to focus. It's not. Got to figure that out. Although the fingernails closest to the actual palm aren't painted. I mean, it's not really something that you're going to notice, but I don't know. I guess it's worth noting. So we have the death ball finger. We'll put him down there. Then we have the Namek pose finger, which when I first got this figure, I didn't really notice what the difference was. And then it finally occurred to me, oh, this is from that pose. And when you get this figure posed, it looks almost exactly like it was pulled out of the book. And then the fingernail, all of the fingernails on this hand are painted, which makes me curious as to why the other ones weren't. So this one, unlike the Namek finger, doesn't have a straight finger. So that's that. Also, my backdrop right now is a map of Skyrim, so if you don't like the game, I feel sorry for you, you're missing out. So, we have two open palm hands. This could be for style, could be for, I guess, holding things too, maybe, to give me some hands. This is also used for the Namek pose, but we're given two fingernails individually painted. And like I said, it's hard to tell because of the camera, but the tops of the fingernails, this bit, or the fingers, that bit right there, are actually textured and detailed as well. So that's pretty nice. So then, we have two jazz hands, stop it, key blast hands. Fingernails are all individually painted. Looks pretty good. Although, I don't know, it looks kind of weird. Because whenever you kind of do that with your hands, you can still see the joints. And I just don't know. It kind of seems like it's just way too curved right here. And I don't know how I feel about it. But fingernails are individually painted, but it's kind of hard to tell. But this finger this finger are off painted, essentially. It's kind of like they were missed. Like they're painted off to the side. I hope that's not a major problem. It's just something that I noticed. Exchanging the hands is pretty easy. You just pull it off the ball peg. Put the new one on. And same thing with the neck joint. It's kind of hard to do because when you go to press, it moves the ball peg down. So you gotta finagle it a little bit. So we'll put the fist back on just for now. There we go. So that's that. So not only in the 8 different hands, I don't know, I'm bad at math. We also get, so let me get these out of the blister. We get 6 different feet. So these are the ones that come on him in the package. The textured flat bottom used for standing on surfaces. They're flat. Then we get, and they actually are different if you look. It's kind of hard to tell, but they're not just the same foot sculpt. They have specific legs that they go on. So we get that, but we also get these 2 feet, which are, come on, Frieza, stand up, and whatever's gonna fall over. We get these 2 feet, which have these weird looking peg holes. I don't know. They're almost identical to the other feet, but since they have the peg, they don't stand flat. And those are for use for the display stage, which I'll show you in a second. And you got 2 of those. So we'll place down there. Then we have 2 gripping hands for, like, I guess catching fists or hovering. Also death ball poses, I think this is what these were used in. And there's a little black smudge there, and I don't know if that was from me or if that was from the company. I've only really ever used this figure for display, and I'm going to be selling it at some point, probably at Con K. So if you ever end up going, I will be there, probably selling this figure along with Fanboy. So we have a couple more accessories. We have the display stage, which is for the Namek pose. And exchanging the feet to get the display stage on, this is the same with the other feet too. You just pull it straight off, put your new foot on. It's kind of a little hard to do. You just got to make sure that you got it in all the way. Then, I don't know why the pegs are white. I think that that's maybe so that way when you put the peg in its little hole, it doesn't rub paints. That's my only real guess. And it's detailed really nice. It has lighter colors at the top and darker at the bottom. And it also has indents for the actual joints. And then once you get that on, it looks seamless. Well, you know, once you get it actually on, it looks seamless. So that actually is a really cool display option for the Namek pose, is what that is exclusively for. I mean, not exclusively, but that's the only purpose from the show that it serves. Let's get Frieza in the shot again. So that's that. The bottom's just flat with some little garb on there. Can't really tell. Put him to the side. So as you saw earlier, his tail's removable. So you get, obviously, a removable tail. So pull that tail off. It's really easy, too. It's not like the hands or anything. Put the new one on. Pretty basic. Also, this tail comes off for the Namek pose. And I like it how the peg is on this end of the tail so that we don't have a big peg sticking out. So if you just kind of put it to where nobody will really notice, you should be fine. Although, again, we'll put it on. And this bit right here is used for holding Vegeta's neck. And Vegeta's a figure that I do not own because he is ridiculously expensive right now. Or Scouter Vegeta, anyway. See, can we get him to stand up? We can. Now, we have this clear bit. And this bit right here is the bit that rubbed the paint off right here. So, if you get your figure, or you get any figure, really, and clear pieces are really brittle. I don't know if you can see it, but it looks a little cracked on the circular bit. And this just slips onto his wrist. And I have started putting it onto the wrist itself and then rotating it to where the opening is at the purple paint, because if you don't do that, then obviously it's going to rub the paint like mine did. And then you take and you have your, come on, get out of the blister. That's obnoxious. Your death ball accessory. Now this doesn't look entirely accurate because the actual sphere part was black and the little electric bits were supposed to be this pink. So you could fix it if you want it to be show accurate, but I think it looks fine the way it is. And then you put that. It's essentially a ball peg. And it looks kind of off, but if you just rotate the ball peg itself, there you go. And obviously I don't have the right hand on, but whatever. So it actually looks really good when it's on display. You can kind of tilt it to the side where you don't see the this bit as much. So that's that. And like I said, that's the bit that scraped off all this paint. So you got to be really careful with that. So I'll put that down there. And we have one more accessory. We have the I remember it being called the Death Beam, I think. Death Beam. So it's translucent plastic, all of it. And this little peg is pretty, or not this peg hole is pretty obvious, but it's not that noticeable. And then it has a nice white paint on it. And then this bit itself is spiky. And at first I thought that it was just the death ball, but it's not. It's just spikes. It's just spikes, and then the death ball actually has the spikes connected by lightning or whatever. So this bit, it's kind of hard to do. So when you take your display stage, it has this peg hole. So to get it as low as you possibly can, you have to bend it like this and tilt that up to get the death ball, or the death beam on it. But, and then I'll just lay it level. We'll get Frieza to stand up as tall as he can and point. It's too tall. Unless you want him pointing up at an angle, it's not that convenient. Go back this way. You can definitely work your way around it, but it's not practical, I guess. But it's there, it's an accessory. I'm pretty happy with it. Doesn't matter that much. But, you know, that's that. What are you gonna do? Looks great when it's on display, so you just gotta alter it around a little bit. So, let's move on to the articulation of the figure. The head is on A. It has a ball peg, and then it has a ball hinge connected to what I'm pretty sure is just a peg. So it'll give you the swivel, it'll give you the hinge, and then you have the ball peg on top of it. So if we can get the head to sit on top first try. There we go. You can get back a little bit to look up. You can get down pretty far. Well, yeah, down pretty far. Get the full rotation. Head rocker a little bit. Give him a little attitude. The head, or the neck, I believe is on a double ball peg. So you get, well, let's put the head back on. So you get forward a little, backward a little, side to side, not that much. So mainly the real reason of this, I guess, is just for rotation, but it doesn't really rotate. So all you really get is that little forward and backward, and that little side to side. So it's kind of a weird design choice. I guess it's just there for articulation purposes, obviously, but I feel like it wasn't really needed. It just kind of breaks up the sculpt a little bit, and it's kind of obvious, but, you know, whatever. So the shoulders, I mean, are on this interesting design. So you have this ball peg in here, and it looks like it should go up and down, but it doesn't. So you have this ball socket, which goes into the shoulder, which allows the movement there, and then it has a hinge, so you can get your full up and down. So he gets a little more than 90 degrees if you use the socket. If you just use the swivel, or the hinge here, you get about, I guess a little more than 90. But if you use that articulation in the torso itself too, you get that. We get our bicep swivel at the actual shoulder, and I'm pretty sure that you have the swivel here, so that way you can get the crossed arms bit on. Because I feel like if they changed this joint a little bit, they wouldn't need this, because the sculpt kind of doesn't look too particularly fabulous, but, you know, whatever. So here we have this really interesting joint. It's kind of like we have two hinges, but you can actually pull it, if I can get it. Try not to break the figure. Maybe it's this arm that I got it on. Yeah. You can pull it out there, and you can kind of get a better look at this articulation. So it's a double joint, essentially, and you can get, the first joint gives you about 90, the second gives you almost full range, and you can, that's about as far as it goes, that second joint, or that joint closest to the bicep. So you get almost full range. The sculpt kind of messes with it, and I think that if that sculpt wasn't there, you would definitely be able to get a further bend because there's no limitations there. But it is what it is. And the elbow joint, it doesn't look too bad, but it doesn't exactly look natural. It's definitely disguised, and you can definitely pose it without people really noticing, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. So for the torso, we have this little plate here, which I think is just a ball peg. So you get up and down, and that's to kind of hide this torso articulation a little bit. You can also rotate it side to side a little. So you get full range, and I think that the body, if you can look in there, I can get a little light in, looks like a double ball peg. So you get the side to side a little bit. Actually, that's pretty far, now that I think about it. You get the backwards pretty far, and you can use that to cover it up a little bit more. And you get the forward a little bit. But where you're going to get your main articulation is from this waist section. So you can get side about the same amount, back pretty far, and forward pretty far. And you also get your swivel. So you can really get him in some dynamic looking poses without it looking unnatural, especially with this being posable, this purple bit. So these, also the tails are on has a peg and another peg and then a hinge. I don't know what you'd call that, double peg hinge. So it gives you a pretty good range. And they also swivel on both ends, like I said, so you can get the tail pretty much wherever you need it. The hips are on ball pegs, but they're drop down ball pegs. So you can push the knee up into the thigh, or up into the hips to kind of hide the articulation, or you can drop it down to get a better range of motion. So if you put it up in the hips, you get about, what is that, like 45? You get about 45. But then if you use the drop down, you get, let's see if the hip will stay, you get about 90. So it increases the articulation a little bit, and it also gives you the opportunity to hide it a little bit. So forward with the hip as close to the waist as you can get it, gives you about 45, but if you use the drop down, you get a really good range of motion. Great for kicks and such. And you don't go back too far, but no figures really do. So, and then the ball peg actually goes into this socket, which allows the leg, if you want to look at that, it allows the leg to actually rotate in that ball socket. And mine, I think it's the left leg, is frozen. So I don't get that socket. The right leg, though, I can actually get it to rotate, but the left leg is actually frozen. If I finagle with it enough, I could get it fixed, but it's not really worth my time. So these knees actually look really nice. These are the best knees that I've seen on an S.H.Figuarts. Especially if you compare it to the Saiyans and such, with their ugly-looking knees. And it actually looks pretty natural with that bend, because the kneecap is actually detailed, so it looks really nice. And then, so this first joint, sorry about that weird transition there, gets you that's about 90. But the second joint gives you almost full range, but again, the sculpt kind of breaks it. So if it wasn't for the sculpt, which I think is pretty great, we'd have a pretty good joint here. And this right here is essentially the same joint, if you look, as the elbow. I just rotated it around a little bit. But the elbow is not sculpted, so it doesn't look that natural as the knee does. So going down a little bit further, we have the feet articulation, which is on the same joint as I was saying the tail was on, and same thing with the wrist. So you can get the foot down almost all the way, get the foot up. Honestly, that's about as far as you get, just flat. Get the full rotation, and then you can rotate it around to get your ankle rocker. So that's pretty cool. So overall with this figure, the detail's great, the articulation's fantastic, and the loads of accessories that you get, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. I know that he's very expensive right now, if you go and look at the sold listings on eBay. So the chances of you actually being able to pick one up that's not bootleg are very slim. Excuse me. So I know this has probably been a pretty long review, but that's because this figure just comes with tons and tons and tons of stuff. Excuse me again. So I have a couple of other figures that I'm going to be putting up pretty soon. Figma, actually bootleg Figma, because I'm cheap. If you have figures that you want to suggest, put it in, I don't know, I guess put it in the comments, obviously. I don't have too much money to throw around for this channel, but I'll be willing to buy a couple figures if you want to see them. So, overall, this figure's pretty great. So, I definitely recommend it if you can pick it up. It's definitely worth hunting down, especially if you can get it for the right price. Because right now I think he's selling for like $280 or something, but I bought him when he was first released, so that is the S.H.Figuarts Frieza. Definitely a figure that you should get. It's probably the only decent Frieza that I know of. And he looks great standing next to other characters, which I don't have around me because I can't grab them because they're far away. So, that's about it. Be sure to obviously like the video if you enjoyed it. And then, yeah, give me a subscribe if you want. Keep up with all the action figure reviews I'll be sending out. And peace out.